I'm Dr. Vemi Bindra. I'm a gynecologist and a laparoscopic surgeon at Apollo Hospitals, Hyderabad. Today, I wanted to discuss about the telemedicine during COVID-19 for women's health. COVID-19 has created some unprecedented times for all of us, and we are adjusting to and bringing our changes to our new normal life. Telemedicine is one of those. Telemedicine has helped millions of women during this COVID-19 pandemic, and it is going to stay here with us, and many patients in future can avail this facility and save their travel time and utilize this facility from the comfort of their home. So today I will be talking about telemedicine for women's health during COVID-19. During pandemic, the challenges faced by a healthcare system are huge because it's an additional burden for the healthcare facility, and the healthcare infrastructure needs a great push to handle all the people who are suffering from the infection. When we are handling a pandemic and taking care of patients who are suffering from a new infection, as currently people are suffering from COVID-19, the routine healthcare takes a blow. Now, if you remember during the lockdown in March and April, when the lockdown was very strict, the OPD services, the clinics, and all routine services, even the elective surgeries were deferred, and everything came to an halt. At that time, government realized that there has to be a way where we can offer these services still to our patients. So during this pandemic, government also realized that chronic conditions and other problems needs to be addressed too. So Ministry of Health and Family Welfare allowed us to use telemedicine for our patients, and they can access this facility, at least if not for the treatment, for the guidance when they can't step out of their homes, and face-to-face interaction increases the chances of infection. For women, if delay in routine care happens, pregnant women will have more maternal and neonatal morbidity and mortality because of delay. And for gynecological patients, they may land up in emergencies such as acute torsion. Because of excessive bleeding, they may have anemia, ruptured ectopic, cyst rupture, and many more complications if care is delayed. You must have heard about many incidences which were being published in the newspapers that women were not able to access the care, and they were traveling from rural areas to the city, and the care was delayed, and unfortunately we lost few mothers in those scenarios. Briefly, I will tell you what is telemedicine. According to WHO, telemedicine is the delivery of healthcare services by using information and communication technologies for the exchange of information for diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. This telemedicine practice cuts down one-on-one interaction between the patient and doctor or a healthcare provider, and is useful when handling infectious diseases. As all of us know, COVID-19 is a highly infectious virus. So if we use telemedicine, we can cut down the transmission rate, and we can also reduce the burden on healthcare system. Also, at the same time, we'll get treatment at home for some of the chronic conditions, or follow up patients who are having some chronic issues and they need medical help. Now, COVID-19 has taught us three major lessons. We can adapt to anything. All of us have made major changes in our lifestyle, and we are doing pretty well in that aspect. Yes, initially everyone suffered a lot, but now everybody is gathering themselves and finding new ways to cope up with this issue so that our future is safe and secure. Everything is connected. All of us are connected in spite of lockdown, in spite of not stepping out of our homes. We are connected to our family, to office, to work. We as doctors are connected to our patients. And yes, for all these things to happen, connection is everything. So if you have good connections, I mean to say internet connections and good facilities. You can be connected to the whole world and you can survive, and we will very well come out of this pandemic. Now, there are three things which I would like to mention. One is education, awareness, and accessibility. These three things are very, very important. Now, nowadays also many of my patients tell me that they're not aware that I'm available even after 6 months of pandemic. So awareness is the key, education and knowledge how to use the technology. And yes, you should have the technology to use it to avail these services. So current dilemma facing healthcare system worldwide is how to sustain the capacity to provide service not only for those afflicted with COVID-19, but also for trauma patients and those suffering from acute and chronic diseases, for women especially like PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, ovarian cyst, while protecting the physicians, nurses, and other health professionals as well. Our system will crash if all the healthcare workers get affected. We are resorting to telemedicine while keeping physicians and people at home as far as possible, as face-to-face consultation increase the risk of contracting COVID-19. That does not mean we are not calling you to the hospital. If needed, yes, you need to come for the physical checkup, you need to come for the test, you need to come for the surgeries if needed. This pandemic has shown us how we can manage most of the problems from home, how we can minimize your visits to hospital, how we can triage patients for essential medical attention. It would be wrong to say that telemedicine is only for the current crisis. It is here to stay and will help millions of people in coming years. On 25th March 2020, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare issued the guidelines for the physicians, how we can use the telemedicine and how people can avail it. And any registered medical practitioners are entitled to deliver a telemedicine services. Now, tools for telemedicine are very, very important. As I already said, connection is everything. Any tool which is suitable for carrying out technology-based patient consultation, it can be a telephone, video devices, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, mobile app, or internet-based digital platforms for telemedicine or data transmission systems like Skype, email, fax, etc. Irrespective of tools used, the principles will remain same. I'll be discussing about the principles. There are 7 elements for any telemedicine consultation. One is the context, identification of the patient and the doctor both, mode of communication, consent, type of consultation, patient evaluation, and patient management. Now, context, if I say for what you are contacting the doctor, one is the specialty, second is the need, whether it's a routine consultation or it's an emergency consultation, that we have to be very specific so that referral can be made in time. Identification, very important for both doctor and the patient, because sometimes we do get calls. If it is a telephonic consultation where I can't see the patient, we do calls on somebody else's behalf, especially for medical termination of pregnancies where the girls are unmarried. Believe me, we don't deny services to any unmarried girl. Reproduction is a human right, and if you are seeking facility for medical termination of pregnancy, please talk to your doctor directly and seek help for it. No need to hide these facts and go to quacks and get yourself in trouble. Now, if I tell you this example, a patient booked in a name of someone else, and you can see it's written here, male and 43 years. The patient was around 30 years and her name was something else. Now it becomes very difficult when I issue a prescription on the app where the patient, male patient I'm writing, she was having uterine bleeding. One is, it's funny. Second is, medical legally, I may be wrong. And this, in case you want to apply this prescription for any reimbursement purposes, it won't be valid. Mode of communication, there are 4 modes of communication: video, audio, text, or asynchronous. The best is the video. I'm coming to each one of them. Now, video consultation, as all of us know, a doctor-patient interaction is also based on the physical cues, or it's a combination of your when we doctors make a diagnosis, it is something which is a culmination of how you present, how a patient presents to me, also her facies, her emotional signals, her physical features, and the way she tells the story. I can make out half of the things. So video consultation is the best form of teleconsultation, because I would say that is the closest to face-to-face consultation. It can never be equal to physical consultation, but in the present scenario, when all of us are wearing masks and face shields, it's very difficult to take out your emotional expressions. So video consultation gives me the best information, and it helps me in reaching my diagnosis. It is closest to in-person consult. There is a real-time interaction. Patient identification is easier. Doctor can see the patient and discuss with the caregiver. Visual cues can be perceived, and inspection of patient can be carried out. Some of the things you can show us, many of the patients show us the serum in a scar, or they take a picture and send to us. Limitations is dependent on high quality internet connection at both the ends, else will lead to a suboptimal exchange of information. There is a possibility of abuse, misuse, ensuring privacy of patients in video consults. So that is very important that you use some platform where the privacy is maintained. Audio consultation by phone or some apps, convenient and fast, unlimited reach, suitable for urgent cases, no separate infrastructure required, real-time interaction. But yes, the non-verbal cues can be missed, not suitable for conditions that require a visual inspection, example, skin, eye, tongue examination, or physical touch. Patient identification needs to be clearer, greater chances of imposters representing the real patient. Chat-based consultations, we usually don't prefer that. Either audio or video is okay. Video is the most preferred one. It is also convenient and quick. Documentation and identification may be an integral feature of the platform. It is suitable for urgent cases, follow-ups, or asking for a referral doctor. No separate infrastructure, can be real-time as well. Besides the visual and physical touch, text-based interaction also misses the verbal cues. Difficult to establish rapport with the patient. Cannot be sure of identity of the doctor or the patient. Asynchronous email fax recordings, I would say that it is good for doctor-to-doctor interaction rather than patient-to-doctor interaction. A doctor sending some reports or asking for help in the clinical diagnosis, this is the best way to do that. But a patient-doctor interaction through email, fax recordings, it's a little difficult. Only an opinion can be provided based on the previous reports. Now we have a wonderful app. Fortunately, we launched our app around February, and March. We have used it enormously, and we made so many changes to our app depending on the patient experience. In this, we usually, it's very easy to book an appointment. App-based services are good because easy to access. You can access your health records. You can book appointments. Now, I just wanted to show you here, as like previous example, I showed you that a person who downloaded the app booked in his name. Rather than you can add family members, I think most of the apps have this facility. So when you are booking the appointment, you should be very sure in whose name you are booking the appointment. Then you can search for the doctor's name, select a slot, and book the appointment. It's a very user-friendly app. So this app has helped our patients and our doctor's team, and were benefited during this pandemic. We have various telemedicine platforms available nowadays. I think many of you must be aware of it. And app-based are there are web-based and many other platforms which you can utilize and get the service at the earliest. Now, consent is very, very important. In telemedicine, if a patient initiates the consultation, so it is an implied consent that you have consented, that's why you are booking an appointment. So this is a disclaimer usually most of the apps use. This is particularly I have taken from Apollo 247. So you agree that there is no physical examination, and this is only based on the history given by the patient. And in case it is required for you to come for physical consultation, you would agree to do that. Now, there are two types of consultation. One is first consultation and one is follow-up consultation. The first is patient is consulting for the first time. Patient has consulted, but more than 6 months have lapsed. The patient has consulted with the doctor earlier, but for a different reason. That also becomes a new patient. Now, follow-up consult is the patient is consulting with the same doctor within 6 months of his or her previous in-person consultation, or this is for consultation of care of the same health condition like pregnancies. They will be follow-up for 9 months. It is not considered a follow-up if there are new symptoms that are not in the spectrum of the same health condition or doctor does not recall the context of previous treatment and advice. Now, coming to women's evaluation over the telemedicine, like suppose I see a new patient or you are having a problem. So how you can stay at home and when you should visit the doctor, I'm going to explain in the coming discussion. So if it is a new obstetric consultation, like suppose a lady has missed period or she has done a urine pregnancy test at home, or she is pregnant in her first, second or third trimester for the routine antenatal care, they can very well stay at home and consult through a video consultation. There are a few cases where we recommend a face-to-face consultation, high-risk cases, uncontrolled diabetes, and gestational hypertension. Now, there are both the cases, those who have been advised to stay at home or the high-risk cases, they should visit emergency in case either of the group has pain, bleeding, fetal movements are less, any watery discharge per vaginum, miscarriage signs, any bleeding during the pregnancy, warning signs for high blood pressure, or you experience that you are going into labor. Now, low-risk pregnancy. Women who is pregnant, how she can avail the facility of teleconsultation being at home. Usually WHO recommends minimum of 8 visits, and routinely what we follow is once in 4 weeks till 28 weeks, once in 2 weeks till 36, and weekly once till delivery. There are 4 important scans. One is early pregnancy, then we do at 11 to 13 weeks. Third scan is around 18 to 22 weeks. And then we do a growth scan later in the third trimester. Now, when you're a low risk pregnancy, when you know that you have not been detected with diabetes or hypertension or placenta previa or any condition which your doctor has warned, then you can continue your consultations, the routine consultation, which I already mentioned, once in 4 weeks till 28 weeks, and then twice a week. Once in 2 weeks till 36 weeks. Doctor or whom you are consulting, doctor will advise you scans. So usually what I do in my practice is, I advise the scan, I tell the patient, do your blood test the same day, check your blood pressure and weight with the sisters available, or the duty doctors will be there, they will do the needful. And if any tetanus or flu shot she is scheduled for, she'll do everything in the same day. So you can save your time, and nowadays all the reports can be available online, or wherever, which clinic or hospital you are following, you can tell them to mail you if they don't have a web-based service where you can download the reports. That's absolutely fine. So if you get the mail and you have the reports, you can schedule a teleconsultation, and then I think only 4 times, maximum 5 times you'll have to visit the hospital. Yes, physical examination is important. For first-time pregnancy, we need to do a vaginal examination near delivery. So once maybe with the same scan time, we can schedule you for a physical checkup also. Now, when it comes to the gynecological patients or patients who are non-pregnant and have some other acute or chronic problems, so we have to see whether it's an emergency or not. If it is an emergency, we usually recommend face-to-face consultation. Most common problems are acute pain due to ovarian torsion, ectopic pregnancy when the pregnancy comes outside the uterus, blood collection inside the abdomen, acute pelvic pain, heavy vaginal bleeding or others. These also can be managed conservatively if possible, else surgery will be advised. And if it is not an emergency, the common problems like urinary tract infection, vaginal itching, dryness, irritation, abnormal uterine bleeding, fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, mild pelvic inflammatory disease can be managed through teleconsultation. Now, if we see PCOS, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, it affects 1 in 5 women, and most of the women nowadays are having 1 or 2 symptoms of PCOS. It can be managed very well with teleconsultation. A proper history I need. If it's a video consultation will be wonderful because it gives me about information about the acne, hair growth, her facies, her weight, and her BMI. Her looks will suggest me whether she's really having PCOS or not. We usually advise investigations, which one time you can go in fasting, do all the tests along with the ultrasound. Diet and exercise is the mainstay of treatment, can be very well managed by the virtual customized diet chart and virtual sessions. Medications will depend on patient profile and what she is looking for. If she is looking for irregular bleeding, or if she is looking for fertility or weight loss or acne or hair growth treatment. So depending on that, can be completely treated through telemedicine. But yes, patient has to be in follow-up and have regular consultations so that her parameters can be followed up and she can be given the right guidance. Urinary tract infection, usually patient complains of burning, frequency. These symptoms, if you tell us clearly, we can make out that it is urinary tract infection. You will be advised a urine test and a urine culture. Culture report usually comes in 3 days' time, and meanwhile we give you on medication. Once the report is there, you can update us and then we can prescribe specific antibiotics. Abnormal uterine bleeding, it depends on the age and type of abnormality. Investigations and ultrasound will be advised. Medications can be given after going through the investigations. And yes, in this physical examination holds an important part. So if doctor tells you to come for the physical checkup, do visit your doctor, and so that they can rule out the cervical polyp and any local lesions other than the causes mentioned in the picture. And if the doctor advises surgical treatment, everything can be managed through telemedicine. Only you need to go for investigations, applying for your insurance, and then you can directly come for the day of surgery after discussing the doctor. Painful periods and endometriosis, no need to suffer in silence. Endometriosis affects 1 in 10 women, 200 million women worldwide. It has medical and surgical treatment. And yes, fertility enhancing surgeries play an important role for people, for women looking for pregnancy. Now, scheduling a surgery, again, will depend on your reports and the doctor's advice. Doctor may call you for a physical checkup, and then it can be taken forward. Infertility can be managed very well through telemedicine. Consultation, a detailed consultation of the couple, test will be prescribed. If it is only with a medical treatment like ovulation induction, usually we advise a series of follicular scans, do the follicular scans, keep updating us the reports, and we can prescribe the medications. IUI and IVF, for the procedure, you need to go to the doctor, definitely. For IVF, once, if you do the physical consultation, once the procedure is initiated, can be carried on teleconsultations. There are some special cases where face-to-face consultation is must, like medical termination of pregnancy. Even if you have a video consultation, we want you to come in person to sign a consent form, even if it is a medical method of MTP. So many patients ask us that, doctor, why can't you prescribe these medicines? Because Government of India has a MTP law, and we cannot give any medication without patient signing the consent form. So once you need to drop in and sign the form, and then we can manage you over telemedicine. Cancer cases do not delay because of pandemic or COVID-19. You can go to the hospital, get yourself checked, and start the treatment. Some emergencies where there is no time for teleconsultation, immediately go to emergency, or if you know the doctor or you are asking for a reference, just call and ask where you should go so that you don't waste time. Now, the last component of telemedicine is patient management. I already discussed most of them, but yes, there are some special situations. So mostly our management is based on health education. Like in PCOS patient, we tell them what kind of diet and how they should change their lifestyle, pain management, everything we tell them. We provide counseling related to specific clinical condition, and then medication prescription. Now, medication prescription again is restricted to certain categories by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So we follow those guidelines and prescribe medications. Now, this was the paper I published in July-August edition of Journal of Obs-Gynae of India. So I consulted almost 375 to 400 patients over 40 to 50 days when strict lockdown was there. And Apollo apps came to our rescue, and our patients could reach us and get proper care and management during that difficult time. In March and April, I delivered almost 25 to 30 patients. And believe me, none of the patients I saw clinically other than the high-risk patients. And all of them availed the teleconsultation facility. Most of them had a BP machine and a weighing machine at home, and they were informing me all the findings, and they went for one ultrasound if required. So we managed them well, and fortunately, all of them delivered with us. Mother and baby were healthy. Now, for telemedicine, there are some do's and don'ts which a doctor and patient both should follow. So you should book an appointment through telemedicine platform and app as far as possible, because maintenance of records, accessing through the previous records is very easy. Now, see, I told you a consultation through WhatsApp also, but now, see, now everybody is doing that. That does not mean that patients keep on texting. So this has to be a through appointment, whether you are consulting through a WhatsApp or any other ways. Please schedule an appointment and try to contact your doctor. Book appointment in your name only and not in any other name. Keep your identification ready or handy. Keep all your files together. If you want, write your complaints on a piece of paper with the duration. Especially for women, LMP is important. I have many patients who come online, sit in front of the camera. I ask for the last period. They start thinking and they start calling somebody from the family to tell them their last period. I think that is one thing which everybody should, which women should know, when was her last period, and not anybody else. Upload or email your reports prior, if any. Check your internet connection, check your audio and video beforehand, sit in a room with least disturbance. If advised to come for face-to-face consultation, please follow. Do not hide your identity. Do not book appointment in somebody else's name. Do not hide your symptoms or medical history. Some are the warning signs for women when they should seek help when they are at home. There is acute lower abdominal pain, pain or pressure in pelvis different from menstrual cramps, abnormal uterine bleeding, postmenopausal bleeding, any lumps in genital area, vaginal discharge with bad odor, urinary incontinence, acute UTI or urinary retention. Warning signs for pregnant women for first trimester till 12 weeks, any cramping or bleeding from the vagina, low pelvic pain, severe pain, cramping or lower abdominal pressure that does not go away, pain or burning with urine, severe nausea or vomiting, rash or unusual skin shows. Second trimester, any vaginal discharge, change in type, watery, mucus, bloody, lower abdominal or pelvic pressure, abdominal cramps with or without diarrhea, may feel like menstrual cramps, regular consistent contraction or tightening, headaches that don't respond to comfort measures or paracetamol, blurred vision, fainting, major swelling or puffiness of face, rapid weight gain, and decreased fetal movements. Abdominal pain, continuous or severe regular contractions or tightening of the uterus before 36 weeks, chills and fever over 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, vaginal bleeding, sudden increase in vaginal discharge, decrease in baby movements, leaking of any fluid, vomiting that does not get better, burning during urination or trouble passing urine, rapid weight gain, blurred vision or spots before your eyes, headache severe or that does not respond to comfort measures or paracetamol. Now, what do we learn from this talk? Use telemedicine as much as possible during current pandemic, can be used afterwards as well. Always book an appointment and follow do's and don'ts of telemedicine. Be aware of warning signs and symptoms when to reach the emergency. It can go a long way in future, at least for non-emergencies and low-risk pregnancies, and this can reduce the hospital burden and is comfortable for patients too. Not only COVID-19, this can help to reduce transmission of many diseases and reduce overall disease burden on healthcare. With this, I would like to end my talk, but I would also like to tell you that now from March, it's almost 6 months, we are fighting with the pandemic. Although in India, we are peaking with the cases, but we are not compromising on any routine healthcare. We are doing physical consultations as well as elective surgeries. But yes, before the elective surgeries, you need to undergo COVID-19 testing and chest CT so that to rule out any asymptomatic carriers that will help save lives and prevent the transmission of disease. And we don't want to operate on asymptomatic carriers also. In case your COVID test comes positive or chest CT shows some signs, we may defer your elective surgery for 4 weeks. But if it is any emergency, we will be taking all the precautions and doing the surgery. So do not compromise on your routine care. Use telemedicine as far as possible. But if you need any physical consultation, we all are available now, and we are not compromising on any routine healthcare. Thank you.